Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rogers Kakasungura YouTube channel. Kaka, this message goes to all bishops in the Republic of Kenya, whether in the Catholic denomination, whether in the ACK denomination, or spiritual churches, as long as you have qualified to be a bishop. Secondly, this message, I am delivering it to all pastors in the Republic of Kenya and the so-called reverends. Lastly, I am delivering this message to all Christians, that is church goers across the Republic of Kenya and beyond. I have always stood firm and maintained that in this country, the church must choose one thing, either to do politics or to preach Jesus Christ, who died and rose the third day. Kanisa lichague kitu kimoja. The church must choose either to side with politicians or to side with Jesus Christ. I am saying this because of the following reasons. The other day, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops held a press conference in Nairobi. In this press conference, the bishops raised concern on the rogue regime that is implementing regulatory changes without due consultations. The Catholic bishops expressed their frustrations towards the Kenya Kwanza regime. Among the key points they were raising, they are protesting the move by the state to snatch church-sponsored schools from their custody. They said it is wrong for the government to enact, because a bill has already been proposed. The state wants to take away the church-sponsored schools from churches. If a certain school is sponsored by the Catholic, the state will take over and edit the Catholic Church from it. If the school is sponsored by the PAG, the state seeks to edit the church from the institutions, that is the universities, the primary schools, and the high schools. So the Catholic bishops say that move cannot be allowed by the church. Number two, the bishops argue that those churches were founded by the missionaries. Now, they are expressing their dissatisfaction towards the decision by the Minister of Interior to hike 10 times the permit subscription for missionaries from 15,000 Kenyan shillings to a whooping cash of 150,000. The Catholic bishops are crying and saying that move undermines the spread of the gospel. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to give you a preview of the press conference held by the Catholic bishops the other day before I tell you what they did yesterday in the State House.
Between ourselves and the government, we are concerned about the deliberate intent to reduce and undermine the role of the Catholic Church, and indeed all faiths, as safeguards of morality in society. We especially decry this subversion in the fields of education and health. Number two, the dilution of the sponsor's role in education and in our schools. The proposed education bill, Basic Education Bill 2024, seeks yet again to dilute and reduce the role of the church in schools and other educational institutions. In fact, it is a breach of the original arrangement between the church and the state on how church-founded educational institutions were to be managed. Our history is very clear that many of these institutions were established by our missionaries as to set them up and nurture them for many years. Moreover, the main contribution was not only academic education, but a true formation of morals and humanity. This has given our country great leaders and forged the moral fabric of our Kenyan society. From independence, there has been a gradual attempt to wrestle the management and role of churches in the schools. The proposed new bill now further threatens this crucial role of the churches in our education system. We therefore decry and reject the systematic scheme to undermine and weaken our management role as the founders of the Catholic-sponsored schools. As a major stakeholder in the provision of education, we as a church have a right to actively engage in the overall management and supervision of all our private and Catholic-sponsored schools. Most of these were born out of the initiative of the Catholic Church. In the same vein, the proposed Universities Bill, Amendment 2024, grants the Cabinet Minister unilateral power of dissolution and merger, conversion, or amalgamation of private universities without reference to the owners. Refer Article 38. It is surprising that instead of focusing on improving the situation in public universities, where the situation is dire, the government wishes to control and interfere with our faith-based universities. While we wish to follow the standards set by the Ministry of Education, we wish that there always be full consultation with all stakeholders in matters that affect our universities.
Number 3, unreasonable demands for work permits for missionaries.
Ladies and gentlemen, umesikia vile wanaongea. At any point, I never thought that these bishops were crying to seek audience with Ruto. I didn't know. I never saw this coming. These bishops, kumbe, they deliberately held that press conference as a way of seeking audience with Ruto. Why? Since Ruto assumed power, he has given bishops a deaf ear. He never listens to them. He never takes advice from them. Despite the bishops saying, huyu ni wetu. Despite the bishops saying, Ruto hana hangover. Despite the bishops strongly saying that the Kenya Kwanza regime belongs to God and therefore we should respect it. I didn't see this coming, that the bishops were holding this press conference deliberately to issue demands, to pour their frustrations so that Ruto can invite them to State House. And it happened, by the way. Finally, Ruto did it. So yesterday, after all these cries, after accusing the Kenya Kwanza regime of being rogue, after accusing the Kenya Kwanza regime of denying them the NHIF cash held for the mission hospitals. The bishops were invited for lunch in statehouse. Mulisikia Ruto spends million on food. So this is part of the people who are eating our tax in statehouse. So they were welcomed. I know they were given tea. I know they were given lunch. And I'm sure they were given some kifurushi and some kagunia as a thank you note to see the president. So I didn't really, mimi nilifikiria there were genuine concerns. Kumbe, kumbe watu walikuwa wanatafuta ticket ya kwenda State House. Mungu wangu, Wakenya tumebaki na Mungu tu. Now, mimi nilijiuliza maswali. Hawa mabishop kuitwa State House. Mimi nimebaki nikijiuliza maswali. One, I'm just thinking as a Kenyan. Wamegombana ndio, wamesema Ruto amewapa mgongo ndio, wamesema Ruto anataka kuwamaliza ndio, wanasema Ruto anataka kuwanyang'anya shule ni sawa. Jana wameitwa State House, wakaenda. Aki mimi ningekuwa wao singeenda, because that is too demeaning. That is demeaning themselves. Hawezi lia leo, alafu mtu ambaye unamulilia kesho tena mnakula na yeye. Hey, what does it portray? It's either Ruto amewaita to silence them. Yes. Or number two, amewaita kuwadanganya. And by the way, sasa baada ya hii conference hii, wacha tuone kama watafanya ingine. Tuko katika this country, wacha tuone kama the same bishops watafanya mkutano mwingine tena kukosoa serikali ya Kenya Kwanza. Wacha tuone. Si tuko Kenya hii na nyinyi, Jana wamekuwa State House, wamekula, wameshiba. Sawa. Sasa, if they were not silenced and if they are genuine to us, they should continue with such press conferences and push the government to have a dialogue with the doctors. But, you know, in this country, their press conference might be the last one going forward. Because wameitwa wakaitika, wameitiwa chai wakaenda, na walichopewa hatujui. So, you can see, you know, mumewaona hapo, mnaona ndio hao. The same bishops, mmewaona. You've just seen them vile hapo ni State House. Wana vile wamekaa, wako na Ruto, waliongea hatujui. And I'm sure waliitwa kwa sababu ya hii malalamishi. So, hiyo ndio Kenya na tutasonga. Tutanyamazisha judiciary, tutanyamazisha parliament, tutanyamazisha even the clergy. No weapon formed against this godly regime shall prosper. Kama ni mabishop wanaleta maneno, tunawaita, tunawafungia kwa box. Kama ni parliament inaleta maneno, tunafungia. Kama ni wa Kenya, kama ni Raila, tunapeleka AU. Hii ni serikali ya Mungu, na serikali ya Mungu haikosolewi. Wale wanaikosoa, wale ni watenda dhambi. So serikali ya Mungu wacha ifanye kazi. Namna hiyo. Mungu abariki sana. See you in the next video, ladies and gentlemen. Asanteni sana.